So this question says simplify, which again is all about writing less than what you see here. And we can see that we're dealing with quadratics. So we've got power 2 in an expression, we've got another power 2 in an expression. And we can see with this top quadratic we've got no common term, no common factor, sorry. So therefore it's going to be a double bracket. And here we can see there's no common factor either, so it's going to be a double bracket. So we know in essence that we're looking for two brackets on bottom and top. And one of these brackets must be the same really, because if it's going to simplify then something has to cancel down. The easiest one to go for is the bottom part first, because once we know what the bottom part is, we know the top must have something to do with the bottom, so therefore it'll help us to decide what's going on in the top. Should really recognise by now with your practice guys that this is called the difference of two squares. 9 is a square number and 25 is a square number. 9x squared is also a square because it's a multiple of the same thing to give you 9x squared. And the rule for the difference of two squares simply says that you can write the two brackets fairly straightforwardly by recognising that to get the a value you square root the a squared. So in other words, if I know what the square root of 9x squared is, which is 3x, and if I know what the square root of 25 is, which is 5, I can then just quickly go to this here and we could be writing 3x at the front and plus 5 and take away 5. So knowing that that's the difference of two squares makes it a fairly quick thing to do. If not, then you'd go through the normal process. You know, you'd go through your bracket approach or whichever method you like using. And I prefer the grid approach, so it's just a preference. So we know that 9x squared must come in there, take away 25 must come in there, and these two must add up to 0 because we've got no x's in the middle. We're timesing on this grid, so that has to be 3x and 3x because that's what's going to make 9x squared. We need two numbers that multiply to give us negative 25, but add to give us nothing. So 5 and negative 5. And then we can check it works. So 3x times negative 5 is negative 15x. 3x times 5 is 15x. 15x take away 15x is 0. So 3x plus 5 and 3x minus 5. The top part, well, we know it's got to be one of these brackets. So we know that for 3x squared, take away 16x, take away 35, we know it's got to equal 3x and x. And all we've got to decide is that is it plus 5 or minus 5. Well, if we know this is going to be 5, 5 times what gives us 35? 7. So we know that has to be 7, and we know this has to be 5. To decide whether it's plus 5 or minus 5, then we look at what we need here. We need negative 16x from multiplying this out. Well, we know that 3x's times 7 is 21x, and we know that if we take away 5, we'll get 16. But we need negative 16. So it's going to have to be negative 7 there, because 3x times negative 7 is negative 21x. Add 5x will give me negative 16x. And again, you know, we should be checking that these things work. So 3x times x, 3x squared. 3x times negative 7 is negative 21x. X times 5 is 5x, and negative 7 times 5 is negative 35. And then of course bring the two to like terms together here, and that equals take away 16x, negative 16x. Got that, got that, got that. So the top of this then becomes 3x plus 5 and x minus 7. And basically then we can look at this and see, well, what's the same? And that the same as that. So we're left on the answer line as x take away 7 over 3x take away 5. So that'll be our final answer, and we don't need to simplify that down anymore or put brackets in because it is the final answer. So what we've seen then is that something that looks quite complicated, by recognising a few rules, then we can simplify it down to this. Now in an ideal world, and your exam should be in the ideal world, we should check. You know, we should say what happens when x is a simple number. So let's take the simplest number we can think of, 1. And if we put 1 into here, then we end up with 3 times 1 squared, which is 3. 16 ones is 16. 3 take away 16 is negative 13. Take away 35 is negative 48. 9 times 1 squared is 9. 9 take away 25 is 25 take away 9, 16. So it's going to be negative 16. 48 divided by that is positive 3. So with 1, the answer for the original expression gave us an answer of 3 when x is 1. So this should also give us 3. So let's have a look. 1 take away 7 is -6. 3 take away 5 is -2. -6 divided by -2 is 3. So we can be happy that the check worked. Learn how to factorise quadratics, guys. You know, it's a common question in your exams at the higher level, and once you've sussed that technique, then these questions that look quite complicated come down to recognising basic patterns, and always be doing your checking, and do that final bit at the end. Put a number into your original expression, check what answer you get from that, and make sure you get the same at the end to prove that the simplifiers worked.